Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
This is a catastrophe.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
That's what I wished for when I blew out my candle.
Locking down the middle of the day, live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
The floor is yours.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Wednesday. It means we're brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools. Got Jacob Beck and Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos. And as you might imagine, lots and lots to do. Saints back on the practice field in full pads. Ross Jackson is along in 1 hour to talk about that. We also heard from Kellen Moore earlier. We'll get some sound on that in the second hour. It's What If Wednesday. If you're in the Bayou Ford chat or you hear me and you want to jump on Twitter and throw some what ifs at me, we'll take them for 30 minutes from right now. And we've made it through the offseason. It's over. We were out at LSU football practice today for about an hour and a half, and I've got an entire notebook full of stuff. If you don't have time to sit here and listen to me talk about it for the next 30 minutes, you can go check it out at louisianasports.net for free. We got lots and lots to get into, so let's do it. We'll start with our Genesis opening drive.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge.
There's a pep in my step this morning. Got up, got a run in, got the kiddo to school, and we headed over to the Ponderosa to check out LSU football practice. I know that y'all have heard me over the years talk about how it's not the most interesting thing in the world to go check out, and I would stand by that take relative to what I think most diehard LSU fans would feel about it. Like, I don't get a ton out of watching wide receivers run through cones and catch passes from a grad assistant 5 yards away from them. I don't get a ton out of watching offensive linemen go through walkthroughs on which linebackers to hit. That's not the most fun thing in the world, even though I think a lot of people think going to an LSU football practice would be a really, really cool thing. But that said, I do like the first day. I like the first day. You're getting to look at some guys for the first time. You're getting to look at guys you haven't seen since April, getting to look at who's out there first, running through rotations. And it's just a signal that the quote-unquote dead of summer is moving beyond us, and we're getting closer to some real, actual live football. And we saw a good bit of practice today. So let's kind of go into the things that I saw first and foremost. Let's start with injury stuff, okay? Because that's very evident. That's not a guess. That's not something that you're making an overreaction on. Just in terms of the guys that were there, the guys that were not, and what the guys that have come off an injury were looking like. So we'll start there. Harold Perkins, pretty big name dude, linebacker. First team, running through every drill, full speed, no brace, no nothing. He's ready to rock. Whit Weeks, broken leg in the bowl game, full speed, first team, middle linebacker, no significant brace of any sort. He's full speed and ready to go. So those two guys in the middle of your defense that you lost due to injury last year, once in September with Harold Perkins in the ACL, once in the bowl game with Whit Weeks getting rolled up on, those guys are ready to rock and roll. Jacobian Guillory was at practice, had the helmet on, going through some individual stuff, did not participate in the team drills. This is not completely shocking. Jacobian Guillory is a sixth-year senior. He doesn't have to go through the first day of fall camp for the sixth time. They're bringing him back slowly from an Achilles injury. That's a big man. Jacobian Guillory, let me make sure I got my numbers right here. Yeah, 6'2", 318 pounds. That's a guy who they're going to bring along fairly slowly. Now, I'll tell you this. When they wrapped up spring in April, Jacobian Guillory was in pads at practice. Now, he wasn't popping pads, but he was in pads at practice going through some off-to-the-side work with his position coaches. So I don't feel like Jacobian Guillory is a long way away from being full speed. He might be ready to go full speed right this very minute. But that's a significant injury to a big man, and I think LSU is going to take their time with him this early. It is July as of today. Now, LSU does play in August this year, which is rare, but it is July. So I think that that's not necessarily a huge cause for concern with him, but it's something we'll monitor as we continue to go out there. Nick Anderson comes in from Oklahoma. I have hyped Nick Anderson up a ton. I talked about him in my wide receiver breakdown. I wrote about it at LouisianaSports.net. I picked him to lead LSU in receiving, just as kind of looking across the board and looking at his potential and what LSU has at that group. And I've got high hopes for Nick Anderson. And I had high hopes for Nick Anderson when he came over in the spring. And I remember having Brandon Drum on my show. He covers Oklahoma. And he said that, I said, well, tell me about Nick Anderson. He's a freak. And then we started talking about the injury. He's like, well, we never really found out about it. He's talking about the media. Like, it was a hip, and then it was an oblique, and then maybe it was a hamstring, and it was just something in the middle of his body, and it just he never came back. He played in one game and was never to be seen again in Norman. So we watch him in the spring, and Nick Anderson is there, and he's going through the cone drills and running those, and you see his size, his physicality, you know what production he had at Oklahoma, but just not ready to participate in the 11-on-11 and the 7-on-7. And that's April. That's back 3.5 months ago. So I told y'all on Monday of this week, like, the first thing I'm going to do when we go in to practice is find him and see what's up. And I found him. And he had his helmet on and his jersey on, and he was not in no contact, had a sleeve on his leg, and it went all the way from the pants, which stop above the knee, down to his ankle. Black sleeve all the way down. And he was going through the cone drills, what looked to me to be 100%. But they sent the first team out there, and he wasn't with them. And they sent the second team out there, and he wasn't with them. And he didn't do in the 5-on-7, didn't do 7-on-7, didn't do 11-on-11. And when they went outside and did the 11-on-11, he was standing off to the side holding his receiver gloves. That, to me, doesn't look like a guy that's anticipating he's going to go in that drill. So I'm not a doctor. I don't know what exactly is going on with Nick Anderson. It could be a Jacoby and Guillory type deal. Remember last year in fall camp, Zy Alexander was just kind of held out precautionally because he tore his ACL. They're giving him some time, and he didn't start the first game, but he played a little bit. By the time they got to Ole Miss, he was out there. And again, I don't know what the timeline is for Nick Anderson because I don't really know what the injury is.
There is, I think Brian Kelly talked about it.
Well, do you have the sound?
Yeah, actually, let me get it real quick.
That'd be good. Again, I blasted from practice, wrote the practice report, and here I'm here. So if you've got an update on that, I'm all about it. Let's go.
Yeah, we kept him out of contact today. He had gone through our concussion protocol. He got into a little fender bender, and so we wanted to make sure. So he's cleared our concussion protocol. So today was his day of non-contact. He'll be able to get into 11-on-11, 7-on-7 tomorrow.
That makes a lot of sense because, again, I tell you, he's running through the cone drills and looks good. And then he's not going through the 7-on-7 and 11-on-11. So that's good news. Again, I think Nick Anderson is a supremely talented guy, and he is a uniquely gifted player in this receiving core because they don't have anybody else that's 6'3", with that kind of speed and body control and that kind of home run hitting ability. Like Kylan Billiot's 6'3", but I don't know what level of receiver he is. He certainly didn't set LSU's freshman record for touchdown catches like Anderson set Oklahoma's freshman record for touchdown catches. And Chris Hilton and Varian Brown can run for days, but they're not 6'3". And Aaron Anderson has been massively productive. He's LSU's leading receiver last year, but he's not 6'3" either. So this is a guy that I'm hoping for a big year out of. Good to know, nothing significant with the lower extremity injury, which he is still wearing something for, I think. But concussion protocol for the car accident that we know happened right before SEC Media Days. So good to know on that front. And then you've got the last bit of injury news that we found out today, and it's disappointing, but I don't think massively upsetting as far as this roster goes right now. Solomon Thomas, 5-star offensive lineman that we've talked about a lot. He came in the spring. He was a top 5 consensus offensive lineman by every service, and was a guy that you're looking at 4 open offensive line spots. He could potentially push for one. I would put that on hold in a big way because Solomon Thomas has a broken toe in his foot. Metatarsal is what Brian Kelly told Matt Moscone earlier today. He was not at practice today as far as being dressed out, and he's going to miss a month. So you're talking about missing all of camp, really all the way to the Clemson game. To me, that's almost an impossible hill to reclimb once you're ready to go. Like if you have an extended period of time in camp and then get a little injury there at the end and have to miss the first couple of weeks of the season, maybe you could ease back in. Dominic McKinley did that last year. But if you miss all of camp and you miss all of the development stuff and all of the install stuff and all of the scrimmages and all of those reps that go with the first team, second team, third team, all that time where everybody else is working, and then you show up, you're like, hey, I'm ready to go, and you got to get ready to play Clemson and then Florida 2 weeks later. Like, we don't have time to integrate you into things at that point. Like, not someone, I can integrate a third-year receiver in pretty quickly. A first-year offensive lineman, that's going to be an issue. So, Solomon Thomas, I think his playing time in 2025 is really, really doubtful if you miss all of August. That's just the nature of this beast. One guy that had this happen early on in camp, and this is just off the top of my head, there are probably a lot that have happened over the course of the last 20 years, but Jarvis Landry got hurt in fall camp. And I think he's a guy they would have liked to get in on that 2011 team. Odell was really the second receiver on that team. Ruben Randall was far and away the first receiver, but Jarvis missed all of camp and then couldn't really break his way in on that awesome team. And then he came back as a sophomore as a superstar. I'm not here to tell you what Solomon Thomas's 3, 4, 5 years at LSU are going to look like. I'm telling you that year one is massively compromised if you miss all of August. And that's the case right now with him. So that's your look at the injury side of this thing. It's a team outside of Thomas that is healthy and ready to go. They're going to ease back some of these veterans, it appears. But mainly, this is a healthy football team ready to get going in fall camp. So that's the first part of the most important portion of this practice report. Now we get into what I saw on the field. I've got first and second teams on offense and defense. I've got a standout on offense today. I got a standout on defense of the day. Let's talk about that when we come back on this Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com is that website. Employment practices liability, cyber liability, directors and officers, umbrellas. These are things that not every business owner is keenly aware of, and you shouldn't have to be. You're somebody that's running your own business. But if you don't know exactly what that is, and all you know about your insurance program is that it's expensive, maybe get a second set of eyes on it. Call Jonathan Carbo and his team at the Highland Insurance Group. Let them audit your current policy. They'll look at your coverages. They'll look at the markets that are handling your insurance, and they'll look at your premium and they'll go, okay, this is what we can do to fix it. And if it's nothing, which is very rare, they'll say, hey, you're good. But if there are significant issues, they're right here to fix it for you. That's their expertise when it comes to insurance. They are all about the coverage, and they want to make sure their clients are taken care of when something goes wrong that you haven't foreseen. That's what insurance is here to do. And that's what the Highland Insurance Group is here to make sure is possible for you. So contact them at HighlandIG.com. It's Jonathan Carbo and his team right here in the Baton Rouge area. They can help you out statewide in Louisiana. It's Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools.
Shout out to our friends at Renaissance Homes and Pools. Contact our guy, Joey Landry. I'm going to give you a cell phone number at the end of this read. So if you want a pool, I'm going to give you a phone number to call. He's the owner of Renaissance Homes and Pools. He's helped dozens and dozens and dozens of people in the Baton Rouge area put in the pool of their dreams. Joey's got this unbelievable software that he'll sit down with you, with that in front of you, and go through every detail of your pool to scale. If you want to put an outdoor kitchen in, that can be in there. If you've got a cocktail pool that you want to put in, if you want one that's big for the entire family or for some younger kids that got grandkids, you want to deal and make things more palatable for them. No matter what custom pool you want, Joey and his team at Renaissance Homes and Pools can make it happen for you. And it's not too late to start that process. We can swim here until October into November probably. And this can be a 6 to 8 week process depending on when you start and what the scope of the work is. So if you want to get started today on the pool of your dreams, call Joey Blanchard's cell phone number, 225-252-7745. Again, that's 225-252-7745. That is Renaissance Homes and Pools. All right, so let's start with what I saw today at the first part of practice, which was indoors, when they went to the first team offense, which was working against no defense. The offensive line is what we all kind of figured it would be when we got to fall camp. Tyree Adams at left tackle, DJ Chester at left guard, moving over from center. Braylon Moore has been the center. He was not the first team center in the spring. Chester did a lot of that. They've moved Moore to center now. Josh Thompson at right guard and Weston Davis at right tackle. At wide receiver, your top three guys were Aaron Anderson, Chris Hilton, and Xavion Thomas. A lot of seniority there. A lot of very old players that have been in Baton Rouge for multiple years. You got Trey'Dez Green at tight end, Caden Durham at running back, and Garrett Nussmeier as the quarterback. Your second team offense, Carius Kern is working at left tackle, the true freshman who was kind of thought of as an interior player by most of the services, playing left tackle today on the second team. Paul Mabenga is the second team left guard. He will compete there with DJ Chester, who was the first team left guard. Braden Augustus, who's a walk-on, was the center. DJ Chester's the backup center. And Cohen Eccles is probably the third team center, and Eccles was the second team right guard. So Braden Augustus is a long way from getting to the field, but he was manning that center spot for LSU so that Mabenga and Eccles could work at the guard spots. And Bo Bordelon was the right tackle. Berrien Brown, Kyle Parker, and Destin Hill were the second team wide receivers. We mentioned Anderson didn't go through those portions of practice. Bauer Sharp was at tight end, Caleb Jackson at running back, and Michael Van Buren was the quarterback. They got into some 11 on 11. And keep in mind, they don't have pads on. They don't have shoulder pads on. They're not, hitting hard. They're not tackling anybody. So you take the 7-yard gain with a grain of salt. But just what we saw in their working down the field 11 on 11, Nussmeier looked incredibly sharp. The first team offense looked incredibly sharp. You saw some really good work early from Caden Durham. Xavion Thomas caught a 10-yard stop route. Bauer Sharp had a little middle screen that he ran where he went out to the right and then came back underneath and caught a screen pass from the tight end spot. Then on probably the throw and catch of the day, Garrett Nussmeier took a snap with a free play. The right defensive end jumped off sides. He saw it. Berrien Brown was streaking on Ashton Stamps, and Nussmeier delivered it right to the goal line, dropped it right in the bucket. Brown made the catch. It was a gorgeous catch and throw for a touchdown. And Stamps did get his revenge 2 plays later when they tried to throw a back corner fade to Berrien Brown, and Stamps broke it up, made a nice play on the ball. When the second group on offense and defense went out there, the second group really on defense had its way. Tylen Singleton, who has put on some good weight, had a sack. Patrick Payton had a sack. Those were on the first 4 plays that the group ran. Bernard Gooden got a pressure on the next play on the interior defensive tackle. Teron Francis made a really nice catch on DJ Pickett. And then Colin Hurley took over and almost threw 2 interceptions on that play. I thought that things that I observed in the indoor portion of practice before we went outside, A.J. Halsey's size is very obvious at safety. He is not overly tall. He's only 6 feet tall, but he's 225 pounds, and you can tell. Like, he's a big physical dude at safety. Harold Perkins, as I mentioned in the first segment, was looked pain-free to me. Caleb Jackson's lost a little bit of weight, and Harlem Berry has gained a little bit of weight at running back. As far as the depth chart goes on defense, Jack Pyburn and Gabe Relaford were the first-team defensive ends inside. Ahmad Bro and Dominic McKinley, the 2 sophomore defensive tackles, were the starters at that spot. I mentioned Guillory in the first segment. He wasn't quite out there just yet. Whit Weeks and West Weeks were the inside linebackers. The 2 brothers were in there. And then Harold Perkins obviously was playing the star. Got asked a couple times after I left practice via text message, who were the corners? And I responded very quickly, Mansour Delane and Ashton Stamps were your number 1 corners for the defense inside. And then Tamarcus Cooley and Jordan Gilbert were manning the safety positions on the first team. Second team defense, Patrick Payton and Jamari Butler, the 2 transfers who were seniors on this team, were playing the defensive end. Sidear Mitchell and Bernard Gooden, also 2 transfers, were at defensive tackle. Devon Keys and Charles Ross, you have the sophomore and the true freshman, were at linebacker. Tylen Singleton, who I mentioned earlier, was at the star. PJ Woodland and DJ Pickett were your second team corners, and then Javian Toviano and AJ Halsey were your safeties on the second team.
Did it surprise you that Peyton was on the second team?
He was in on the first team when they went outside, and they couldn't block him. So now it's, again, I don't want everyone to get ahead of themselves as everyone does. They don't have pads on. So, like, how important is a sack? How big is the deal that the offensive tackle got beat on a play? I feel like it's a different sport without pads on. And they're not sacking the quarterback to the ground, obviously. So, it's take with it what you will. I think it's noteworthy to look at who was on the first team and second team, but Peyton did come in, and I'll get to him here in a second. But Garrett Nussmeier went out in the 5-on-7 period, 5 offensive players against 7 defensive players with no offensive line, and he was just exceptional. Now, you would expect that. There's no pass rush, literally, and no one can hit him even if they were rushing. So he's just back there looking and throwing. And we know he's awesome at that. And he started 7 for 7 on outside in the 5-on-7 period. Hit Chris Hilton on a gorgeous go route, dropped it just over the outside shoulder, and Hilton kind of caught it and went down to the ground on the sideline for a nice catch. And then here's the first real standout player from today. And I would have not guessed it when I walked into the gate. Destin Hill was a star today. There may be some of you listening and go, I don't even know who Destin Hill is. And that's okay. Destin Hill was a 4-star recruit out of Carr. He chose to go to Florida State. The first 2 years he was in Tallahassee, he didn't play football. And then he played a year, and then he got hurt. So he's been there 4 years out of Carr, and he hasn't really played. He's played 10 games. But he's old, he's physical, and he made 3 catches in traffic today. One in the indoor period when he rose up over the middle of the field, behind the linebackers, in front of the safeties, made a leaping catch from Nussmeier. Great catch. He caught 2 balls in traffic over the middle of the field in the 5-on-7 period that were very much contested, and Hill went through Ashton Stamps to catch one of them and then caught another one in traffic as well. And then right near the end of our portion of viewing, he was right in front of me, and there was a ball that he was on the sideline. They threw a ball up over his head. He went up and one hand caught it, absorbed a hit from a DB, and took it to the ground and held on to it. He made, by my count, 5 really nice catches in an hour and a half that we were out there. He was great. And LSU is just more proof that LSU's got an embarrassment of riches at wide receiver. When they went to 11-on-11 outside, I thought the defense really got after it. And this is to Beck's point. Patrick Payton was with the first team in this portion of the practice. He had a tackle for loss, which I put in air quotes because nobody's hitting anybody. You just get there and put your 2 hands on him. But he got Caden Durham in the backfield once. He also had a sack. He also swatted a pass to the ground. And he was just incredibly disruptive in the 7-play sequence that we saw him out there with the first team. He was working on the offensive left side against Tyree Adams and Carius Kern and had a lot of success doing that. Gabriel Relaford had a sack as well. And at that point, Bernard Gooden kind of took over that period. He shot the A-gap 3 different times, twice for tackles for loss and once for what probably would have been a sack. And Kyle Williams was applauding him big time. Good was getting back there and doing a little celebrate and counting the money. He was disruptive in a big way with the offensive line. And then Jamari Butler beat Tyree Adams for a sack off the offensive left side to finish that. I think it's completely fair for me to sit here and say that there were some issues on the offensive line in the practice today. I think that's completely fair to say. I would back that statement up by saying it was the first day. They didn't have any pads on, and I'm not that concerned about it. Am I concerned about the offensive line as a whole? Do I have a lot of questions about the offensive line as a whole? Yes, I do. Did today make me take 2 wins off of LSU's season total? It did not. It's 1 hour and a half work of practice. Nobody's got pads on. The quarterbacks are not eligible to be hit. It's just a different sport they're playing out there in the first day. Now, if they do this for 3 weeks while we're out there and there are multiple sacks in every period from all different angles, I'll sing a different tune. There was talk, out there at practice today about the 2023 reps that we watched, especially in the red zone. And it was just Jaden Daniels throwing a touchdown on every single rep. And it got it was alarming. But now we didn't realize we were dealing with one of the best passing offenses in the history of the SEC and one of the worst defenses, if not the worst defense in LSU history. But you kind of got the vibe that things were too tilted. And I'm not going to go that far after one day. I think after one day, I would say, looks like LSU's got some dudes on the defensive front. Looked like you had a good day, Bernard Gooden. Looks like you had a good day, Patrick Payton. Looks like you had a big sack, Jamari Butler. Gabe Relaford got in there and made his presence felt. But there were also reps where LSU had time to throw, and Nussmeier was awesome all day long. The last note on the quarterbacks, this was just something that I picked up on, even though he didn't really participate in any of the periods. Juwan Johnson works out with the quarterbacks. He does not wear a no-contact jersey. He wears the same jersey as everybody else. Nussmeier, Van Buren, Hurley, the walk-ons, they're all in red, and he's not. So to me, that's a guy that's going to take some reps back there that are going to be live eventually, where he's going to actually run with the ball a little bit and get tackled. Now, they're not doing that now, obviously, but I would have thought Juwan Johnson, who's moving completely to the quarterback spot, would be in the no-contact jersey. He's not. He's going to be eligible to be hit probably in practice moving forward. So that's a look at kind of what I saw. They're back on the field at 9:45. You want to read about what I saw, Matt's got some notes in there as well. You can read over at LouisianaSports.net. It's free. It's one of the only free practice reports on the internet, I'm confident. Not the only one probably, but one of the few. So you can go check that out at LouisianaSports.net if you got some time and want to read through all of that. Back in action tomorrow at 9:45 out on the Ponderosa, and we will certainly be there. And we'll have another practice report, and we'll talk about it on the show tomorrow. So that's 30 minutes on LSU's practice today. Let's do some What If Wednesday. We'll talk some LSU baseball. Had one guy get promoted yesterday, and then we'll get to some Saints with Ross Jackson coming up in 30 minutes. You're listening to a Wednesday edition of The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. Closet space may not be something that you consider all the time, but if you're starting to think maybe you're getting a little bit cramped, just change it. Get a custom closet. David Duvall and his team will come in and help you out. I tell you my story every week about how I didn't think anything of my closet space, and then my wife-to-be, now my wife, moved in. She's like, this isn't going to work. So we had clothes down the hall, in the closet, coats in the attic, just a bad situation. You don't have to be like that. And we're not anymore because we knew we were going to move. We're out to call David Duvall. But if you're not going to move because you love your interest rate and you love your house and you're going to stay right where you are, but you need more space, One Bath and Closets can customize a closet to your exact specifications. It starts with a questionnaire at their free consultation. They'll understand what your needs are, and they'll put together something for you. Go to their website, onebathandclosets.com. See the pictures of the great closets they put in. See the functionality. Look at the beauty. And they're going to do it right the first time and leave the competition behind. It's One Bath and Closets. Check them out online at onebathandclosets.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools.
Chugging through the work week. It's a Wednesday. Hope it's been a good start. Just about working towards the weekend here on the Hunt Palmer Show. Our Wednesday show is brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools. Ross Jackson coming up in 25 minutes. We'll talk to Ross about today the Saints were back in pads. I still got to go through my position breakdown for the day. That's LSU's linebackers. And I would not expect to see the Weeks brothers at the linebacker spots today, but they were. Devon Keys was running with the second team. And then Charles Ross is with the second team as well. So I'll talk about linebackers coming up in the second hour as well. LSU Tiger headed up another level in minor league baseball. We'll do that to finish off the hour here. So lots and lots to do here on this Wednesday. But right now, it's What If Wednesday.
Time, space, reality. It's more than a linear path. Where a single choice can branch out into infinite realities. Follow me and ponder the question, what if?
Alrighty, let's see what we got here. What if you could take back one of LSU's transfers from the last cycle?
Whew, there are a lot of them. I've actually got the list here. And as I go through it, some interesting names that I'm going to consider. I would absolutely consider John Emery, considering LSU has 4 scholarship running backs and 2 of them are true freshmen. So I would consider John Emery. I don't know that I'm looking at any of the secondary guys. J.K. Johnson, Jair Brown, Sage Ryan, Kylan Jackson. C.J. Daniels was a good player at LSU, but I don't know that I need him on this roster with this many wide receivers. Same goes with Deshaun Womack, like big potential, but I got 3 transfers in and Gabriel Rutherford. Like I just don't know that you need him. So as I look through it, your options are probably John Emery, Shelton Sampson, Kamorian Pimpton, Sage Ryan, who was a starter for you, CJ Daniels, Deshaun Womack. I'm going to take John Emery based on numbers. Like I know he can play the position. I would consider him to probably be the 3rd back, maybe 4th, but I need a 5th running back, and I would probably take John Emery.
Yeah, that would be nice right now. All right, next one. What if the Cubs had stuck with only playing day games at Wrigley?
They say that's a bad deal because the guys are out there in the sun all summer long, and they get up earlier than most and all that kind of stuff, and maybe it wears on guys. It would be bad for me because I like to watch them when I get home from work.
Yeah, but true. We would all be during our show.
Yeah, which they're playing right now in Milwaukee during our show. But they say that was a bad deal, and since the players are bad, I don't like it, and I prefer the night game since I can watch them. I would say that would be quite bad.
Yes, I tend to agree with you. All right, next one. What if LSU? Okay, well, this seems like a pretty obvious answer, but what if LSU has a top 10 offense and defense this year?
That one came from Twitter. They'll be in the playoff. I think they're probably an 11-1 team at that point, if not 12-0. If you're that good on defense and clearly that good on offense. I liked what I saw from the offense today for sure, and I think there's a world of potential in the defense. It's going to come down to that offensive line blocking. But if they do both of those, they're a playoff team. I don't know if they're the 1 seed or the 12 seed, but they're in.
All right, next one. What if the MLB enacts a salary cap? Will it be more balanced?
Yes, absolutely. If the Dodgers and the Padres and the Mets can't just completely dwarf everyone's payroll, then yeah, you're going to get more balance. You're going to get guys that are superstars that can't stick around in places because they're going to price themselves out of it, and you're going to share things. You're also going to get lower wages. You're not going to sign players to Juan Soto type contracts. You've got to deal with a salary cap. You're not going to be able to expand that high. So I get why the players are upset about it. I get why the owners want it, and it's just going to be a matter of who blinks first. And unfortunately, I think it's going to take a very long time. But yeah, you can't tell me that if the A's and Dodgers aren't separated by $230 million a year on payroll, that is clearly going to make a difference. They're going to be more competitive teams, and there's something good about that, but also the Cubs should be one of the best spenders. So for me personally, as you know, I take every NCAA rule and I look, well, what is it? How does it affect LSU? I'm looking at every MLB rule and see how it affects the Cubs. That would be detrimental to the Cubs, I think, if they weren't allowed to outspend the Reds and Pirates.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's hard for me to imagine the MLB with a salary cap, but I mean, we see it with all these other sports, and I think there would probably be a lot more parity. But I mean, even in the salary cap sports, we've still seen teams have runs that it's not really that common in MLB, even though there isn't a salary cap, and sometimes
that's because baseball, the better team wins fewer percentage of the time than basketball and football.
Yeah, that's true. All right, moving on. This one's interesting. What if Damian Ramos had made the extra point against Florida State? And I'll also add to that just all the other issues they had with special teams. Against Alabama, do you think BK still goes for 2 there?
If he makes the extra point, then yes, BK still goes for 2 against Alabama to win the game.
No, I'm saying like is it in the Florida State game?
Yeah, if he makes that extra point, you're still going to go for 2 in the Alabama game.
I think so too. Probably
3 months later, it's just a different circumstance, and you've got him on the ropes, and you got Jaden playing great, and he's tough to deal with in a 2-point spot, and you're gonna go for that. But if you make that and they go to overtime, they got a great chance to win. They were playing really good late. They were throwing the ball around. They scored that touchdown late on the last play of the game. So yeah, they got a great chance to win, and at that point, you're a legitimate contender to play for the national championship when you go to A&M. They lost at A&M.
I think the idea of it was just if it's just questioning if he had more confidence.
He didn't go for 2 because he didn't think Ramos could get the extra. They got that cleaned up. They couldn't block. It wasn't Ramos' fault. They missed blocks on the extra point, and they got that cleaned up the next week.
All right, next one. What if you were stuck with one sandwich for the rest of your life?
Oof.
I mean, there's got to be. what are the parameters here? Like, what are we just talking about? Like a basic sandwich?
We're
or are we
talking about a style of sandwich that you can get at any restaurant or make for yourself at home. But that's the only kind of sandwich you can eat. And I'm not going to classify burgers as a sandwich here.
No.
That's if we're going there, then I'm going burger. But we're not going to do that. And I enjoy a roast beef po' boy or a fried shrimp po' boy more than I do a club sandwich, but I eat 2 a year.
You can't just only eat shrimp po' boys.
I can't. So that's gonna have to go out. It's really down to 2 here. It's a sausage, egg, and cheese breakfast sandwich, which I adore.
Very good for you as well.
Or just it's great cholesterol kick in the morning. Or it's just a standard club, which I love, and you can find at a lot of restaurants.
And that one actually is pretty healthy.
I can make one for myself. So it's just a question of, do I go with the more practical that I'm going to eat a lot for lunch, or do I go with the breakfast sandwich? That is brutal. I'm gonna go with the club, just out of practicality. I like a breakfast sandwich infinitely more, but I can eat other things for breakfast or just forego breakfast altogether. I got to eat lunch like every day, and a lot of times at work, or I need a club sandwich. I need a ham, turkey, cheese sandwich. That's just what it's going to be. So it's not my favorite sandwich in the world, but it's the one that I would pick if I could only have one the rest of the way.
I'm gonna go a turkey and pepper jack cheese sandwich. Because I love to grill. I like to do a grilled cheese, and I like to do a grilled cheese with turkey on it.
Okay.
And that's one of my favorite sandwiches. God, it's relatively healthy. What were you gonna say?
I'm thinking about the fact, I couldn't have just that. I probably eat it maybe twice a year. A meatball po' boy, meatball sandwich, which is just phenomenal. Yeah. And I would be without it. That would just be a disaster.
It would be a sad day. But I think I'd go with that. There is a specific type of turkey. There's like a Cajun turkey that I like to get. That's really good. It makes a really good grilled cheese. I'd probably go with that because it's not and it's a decently healthy enough. Turkey's pretty good for you. Cheese is okay, but that's probably where I'd go with it. Where would you go, Cass?
I know you said that you wouldn't go with it, but I'd probably go with like a roast beef po' boy.
I love it. I adore roast beef po' boy. A good one with Leidenheimer bread, and you get the gravy. I just give it to me, but I eat 2 a year. And so I eat clubs. I eat, if you count what I eat at work, I eat 75, 90 times.
But it doesn't matter what you eat. You could just choose whatever.
Well, I can't eat a roast beef po' boy. I'm talking about utility here. Okay. When am I going to eat the roast beef po' boy?
Why can't you eat that frequently?
I could eat that every day.
Why couldn't you?
I just think it's impractical.
Why? Roast beef
it fills you up. I got to take a nap. It's dripping everywhere.
Okay,
so
you don't.
Good.
It doesn't have to.
Of course it is. I'm not arguing how good it is. I'm arguing how often I'm going to eat it.
You don't have to always get it with you can get it with not dripping, like that. You can do it different ways. And it's good. Roast beef's pretty good for you. It's a good meat.
I stand with my pick.
All right.
It's a club, which is a vanilla sandwich.
Yeah, it is. But it makes sense for you though.
Is that it?
That's it.
All right. We're moving right along here. Wednesday shows brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools. Contact my guy, Joey Blanchard. Check him out online, builtbyrenaissance.com, builtbyrenaissance.com. We'll step aside, come back. One former LSU Tiger moving up the ranks in the minor leagues. Not a big surprise. We'll tell you who it is next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge. GenesisofBatonRouge.com is the website. Most of you that are listening to this have never been behind the wheel of a Genesis. And we can change that. Get on by and see him. Airline at PQ. Doesn't cost you anything to test drive it. Once you get behind the wheel of the Genesis, you'll see the difference. They've got incredible perks that come with your new Genesis purchase. It's called the Complete Confidence. You got a 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty. You've got a 5-year, 60,000-mile bumper-to-bumper warranty. 7 years, unlimited miles on your anti-perforation warranty. You get 24/7 roadside assistance, unlimited miles for 5 years. This is industry-leading stuff over at Genesis. It's not just that the cars are incredibly safe. It's not just that they're incredibly stylish. It's not just that their staff is welcoming and warm. It's the fact that once you get behind the wheel, they're going to take care of you because you're a priority customer. Genesis of Baton Rouge. Check out the inventory, genesisofbatonrouge.com. Go by and see them, airline at PQ. Get behind the wheel, test drive one, and see the difference. Genesis of Baton Rouge.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools.
wrapping up hour number 1 here on this Wednesday. Got the word yesterday. Tommy White is moving on up. He spent the first portion of this season at High A in Lansing in the A's organization.
Just athletics, Hunt. Make sure you denote that.
You can't go A's?
Oh, yeah, you can, but just make sure you don't say the...
I didn't say Oakland.
Okay.
I thought Oakland. I was going to say Oakland. I refrained from saying Oakland.
Should be Oakland.
Just the Athletics. It's not Oakland, but at Lansing, he played in 66 games. He was hitting 260. His on-base 326. His OPS was 787. Had 11 homers, drove 36 runs in. He was in the Futures game. If y'all remember All-Star Weekend, he did make the Futures game. And so they have promoted him now to Double-A. It's just time to move. He's 22 years old, so it's time to get the show on the road up to Double-A and see how that'll go. The A's Double-A affiliate is in Midland. They're in Texas, so he's played one game in Double-A in the Texas League there, 2 for 5 in that game, scored a run. So hopefully Tommy can swing the bat well there in Double-A and continue his ascent through that organization. Right now, Gage Jump is their number one prospect in that organization. He has just been absolutely brilliant this year. Jump joined Tommy White in the Futures game. So I know that Tommy's numbers aren't going to wow you when I say 260 with 11 homers, but you're talking about 66 games. You extrapolate that out. That's good power for him with the wooden bat, and I'm not sure what kind of hitting league the Midwest League is. I know the Texas League can get a little bit offensive, so hopefully Tommy swings the bat well and can move up. You're talking about an organization with the Athletics that's not super loaded at the major league level. They're not winning a lot of games. They're saving a lot of money before they moved to Vegas. So hopefully Tommy can continue his ascent to that organization. But good news for him. It was a great honor for him to get to the Futures game, and he'll be moving on up to Midland. So those of you that are in the Central Texas area, want to go check out Tommy White, you got an opportunity to do that. A lot of LSU fans in the Midland, Dallas, Fort Worth area. I think Midland's reasonably close. I get lost in Central to West Texas. I'm not sure what's close out there, but I know there are a lot of folks that are in oil and gas that live in Midland. I've got some friends of mine that were in college with me that have moved to Midland, so there's got to be some LSU presence there. They can go cheer on Tommy White there as he has made his arrival in Double-A. So good news there for Tommy White. All right, closing up the hour, and got a lot to do in hour number 2. I went through a lot of my notebook for LSU football to start the hour, and went through the first and second teams, went through some of the highlights of the day. To me, I thought the standouts of the day, if I'm going to give that award, were, as I mentioned in the second segment, Destin Hill had a phenomenal day, making acrobatic and in-traffic catches. That's a guy that I had no expectation for because I just didn't know what he could possibly be after 2 years away from football, and then 1 year playing for Florida State, and then 1 year with injury, and then transferring over. Like, handicapping that arrival and what he's going to be, nearly impossible. And if today is any indication, he's a factor on a loaded wide receiver core. I thought Berrien Brown looked good as well. I thought Chris Hilton looked great again. But to me, Destin Hill was the star of the day with Garrett Nussmeier, and that kind of goes without saying. As I wrote in my practice report on LouisianaSports.net, like, we're all very aware that if there's no pressure on Garrett Nussmeier and he's able to just stand back there, read a defense, and chuck it, he's really, really good. And today was really, really good. So I thought that was great to see. On defense, I'm talking about my standouts. I thought that Bernard Gooden and Patrick Payton were clearly standouts on the defensive side of the football as far as getting out the field and creating some havoc. I'm tempering all of the things that I say today based on the fact that they didn't have pads on. And I think you've got to continue to beat that drum because it's so easy and so much fun to get in here and go, nobody can block Bernard Gooden. I told you, that's a guy that had 10 TFLs in South Florida. Kyle Williams is coaching him up like, this guy's going to be a terror. Can't believe Chris Hilton healthy. He's just going to be so dynamic. And they can't block Patrick Payton. He was a guy that had the same amount of sacks as Kiki Mingo in Florida State. Like, there's no way you're going to stop this guy. Like, you get going after 1 day of practice. And I told you at the top of the show, like, I'm excited for the first day, and I'll be excited to see him the second day, and I'll be more excited after that the first day they put the pads on. Like, that's kind of the deal. Like, day 3 in shells, not my favorite. And then, like, 2.5 weeks in, okay. But, like, right at the beginning, I'm in, and then right when they put the pads on and they change some of the drills they do and they play a little bit more 11 on 11, we see some more things. They do a little bit of tackling. They are doing like ferocious one-on-ones between the linemen. Like that is interesting early on. But right now, it's just day one. Just kind of getting acclimated to things. I believe Brian Kelly came to the podium today and said, look, guys, I've got numbers. I'm not sure what names go with what numbers. We practiced one time. We've got 1 million transfers. Things are a little different now. Like, give me a second. So it's like that with everybody. And look, back in 2011, 12, 13, when I was covering the team closely, you didn't see every single media member with the roster out at practice. Like, you kind of knew who was who. You could take your notes in time. Everybody today is going, what here? Okay, who's what that is? Okay. Ahmad Bro moved to 16. Okay, he changed his number. Okay. Well, there's 2 8s there. There's 2. It's a lot to deal with the first day. So a lot of number writing, a lot of making sure that you got your roll call correct, and it'll take everybody a little bit more time to get acclimated as this LSU team pushes off the dock. But it was good to get out there today. Full breakdown for the first 30 minutes of the show today. So if you want to find that, you can on demand at Hunt on LSU. And if you'd like to read Matt and my practice report, we kind of combine forces and put one thing up. You can do that at louisianasports.net for free. Not a lot of free practice reports out there. We've got it over at louisianasports.net. Speaking of louisianasports.net, Ross Jackson been all over Saints camp. They put the pads back on today. We'll hear from Ross after Sports Center. You catch your national headlines, and still got to go into some linebackers in the second hour as well. See you back for hour 2, Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.